Hi there. It is easier said than done, leading the transition of our industries enabled by new technologies and driving the innovation for future success during an economic downturn and not having the crystal ball to know the uncertain. And it is important for all of us to get it right. We have learned from previous crises that the discrepancy between the leading innovators on the one hand and the stagnating laggards increases during and after a crisis. And these are often the moments in which market disruption takes place, with new winners and losers. So, recently I had a very interesting conversation with Jess Kindler of Epiroc about how to maintain momentum with your innovation. We covered several important topics, being data-driven, shifting customer needs and value propositions, managing innovations and uncertainty, and the risk of new competition in our industries. Now, let me first introduce Jess. Jess is President of Parts and Services Division, which provides a complete range of services with the aim of maximizing customers' productivity. The division focuses on spare parts, supply, professional services, support solutions and training. Now, Jess has been with the service business of Epiroc for about 20 years now. So let me briefly introduce Epiroc as well. Epiroc is a worldwide provider of innovative equipment, consumables and service for the mining and infrastructure industries. It used to be part of Atlas Copco and has been separated since around mid-2018. It consists of 5 divisions, which are service, underground, both range offering equipment like drilling, tunneling, loaders, mine trucks and ventilation synthesis and what have you. Then thirdly, the technology and digital division, which drives the automation, digitalization and interoperability expansion for Epiroc, including consulting and engineering services. And then we also have the tooling and attachments, which offers all kinds of rock drilling tools and hydraulic attachment tools and related services. And then we have the Parts and Services division, which is being headed by Jess. Now, a few facts and figures. Overall revenue is nearly 4 billion euros, approximately 14,000 employees within the company. The EBIT rate is about 20%, and the revenue from service and parts is nearly 40% of the overall revenue, and headquartered in Sweden. Now, if you're curious to learn more about Epiroc, check out the website on epirocgroup.com. So let's now jump into the conversation I had with Jess. Enjoy.
When it comes to digital initiatives and what do we do there, I think we see, again, continued demand and push for autonomous solutions, which of course has a big demand on services, to install those autonomous solutions. So we relooked.
Just a question, by the way, what do you mean exactly with autonomous solutions?
So when we deliver a piece of equipment that doesn't have an operator, of course you need a control room and you need a communications infrastructure and you need change management and everything else that goes along with transitioning from operator run machines to control room or computer run machines. So coming into the crisis, we knew more or less what our capacity was, and okay, I think we were under capacity, but now it looks like we're really under capacity because I think even more demand now comes for autonomous solutions. So now we look, okay, what do we do then to speed up? We have pretty aggressive training plans in place to grow people organically, but it's not fast enough, and so then that leads us to acquisitions and evaluating what's going to be available now as this crisis develops or unfolds. End state being, we want more capacity.
How is, let's say, the service business changing with this shifting to more autonomous solutions?
There's a big portion of that service business that's no longer really related to the mechanical function of the machine. It's more related to the digital enablement or the infrastructure enablement on the site. So It's about Wi-Fi networks. It's about operator pods. It's about good, high quality, high definition, low latency video solutions. So you can see immediately what's going on underground. So there's a whole chunk of services that we weren't used to providing in the past, and we've learned over time now, or last, let's say 5 years, how to handle that in a better way.
Do you also see a shift that, let's say, your value proposition is now moving more to providing equipment, to providing an integrated solution, where the real value proposition is about an efficient process, and you guys have technology, data, and capabilities to even optimize constantly the ongoing operations, which is more than just the equipment has to run and has to have good coverage and network and video, etc. Do you see that kind of shift going on as well?
Two shifts that I see. One shift is around that overall optimization of the mine site. So optimizing the use of available hours of the equipment. So I see a couple of projects that we're working on there. And then the other, big shift is around reliability. So making, it's about minimizing all the unplanned downtime, and let's say maximizing or stretching the length of time between planned stops. So it's about overall shifts in the way we think about maintenance. So two shifts. One is optimizing the operation of the equipment, which requires more data, more tracking underground, which machines are sitting, why are they sitting? That's one piece. And then the other piece is around, statistically analyzing the breakdowns and understanding, okay, is this component a problem component, and can we design it out and then lengthen the service interval? Can we stretch major component intervals? Can we sweat the assets in a better way? So two different kind of activities happening now in a bigger way than they were in the past.
Yeah. So do you also, so these are capabilities you still need to constantly develop. You have to increase the capacity, but probably you also still have to develop new capabilities and technology and routines in your organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more than
and
just
I guess
having more.
The big thing for me is that we always need to, it's fine to experiment, but at the end of the day, we also need to make money. So I think we learned this lesson, maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when we started this service division, that you have to establish products. So you have to take service offerings and turn them into products. And then it had to be managed by a product manager that understands commercially then how do you monetize this service offering. Because the last thing you want to do is have really highly skilled and highly competent and highly trained people and then have to give their services away. So it's important to have a product then behind all these activities. So when it comes to this reliability, we established a new product called total cost of ownership agreement type. And that really, the name says it, the name is that we want the lowest total cost of ownership on the equipment. And that comes from stretching these intervals and doing that reliability analysis that I'm talking about. When it comes to the overall optimization of the use of the equipment, then that's a different agreement type, and it's more of a consulting arrangement, and it comes more into our telemetry product line, telematics product line.
Maybe you can elaborate a bit. What is the essence of considering it as a product? What is what is the big difference compared to what you typically see happening and what you do different?
Well, I think if you don't make it into a product, then you live and die by the day rate or the hourly rate of your technicians. But if you establish it as a product, first off, you guarantee a certain amount of utilization of your service techs.
So I can imagine that also part of it, if you start considering as a product, let's say you have to write a brochure of your service, and you don't want to have a brochure where you say, hey, we have trained engineers and they're the best and we have these two, because that's all kind of features and your clients don't care. They want to understand what is value. So if you try to write that brochure, you have to clearly think about what is the value proposition, which means what problem am I solving for you? What is going to be the value? Maybe you can even have some financials. So typically we see productivity improvement of so much. Yeah. And these are the engagement rules and processes and how we interact with each other. So that's all described and structured for your client, but also internally, which means if the client says, yes, let's do it, then it's clear, okay, this is a value, so this is a fair price. Is that part of having that kind of structure in place where you are able to monetize it?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we learned earlier on what the benefits, let's say, of an autonomous fleet are on productivity versus non-autonomous fleet. And so then those become your main value propositions to the customer, whether it's a 20% improvement in productivity or 15% improvement on the cost or reduction on breakdowns. It's all about speaking to that and not arguing about the price of labor.
But I can also imagine that actually with the acceleration of certain trends, maybe some new developments going on, that you also have another window to look at your portfolio to say, hey, but now with these new insights, maybe we have to develop some new scenarios, because we probably still are, not everything is predictable. So that uncertainty, which means you have to develop certain scenarios to say, okay, what if this happens or that happens? That will also have a new priorities and new criteria to assess your portfolio and your innovation portfolio.
Yeah, I think something that product managers always skew to the optimistic scenario. So I try to bring them back and say, okay, now run me a sensitivity analysis. And you know, it sounds kind of elementary, but okay, if business goes away by 50%, you know, is this product still viable? Is it still going to be a viable product? If it goes up 50%, you know, do we have the capacity in the supply chain to address it? So sensitivity analysis, again, I think I learned it because in mining, I mean, again, it's this 20-year horizon. So you're always looking at over those 20 years, everything possible can happen. Commodities prices can go up, they can go down, wars can happen, depressions, recessions, expansions, all those things can happen. So when you go to invest your money into a project, it's important to know, okay, what are the chances that you're going to be profitable? I mean, everybody can write a model that shows a positive NPV. Okay, I mean, you just play with the cells in Excel until the thing pops out.
We'll always get it right.
And you say, okay, this is how much we have to sell. Okay, but then you take that base case and then say, okay, now what if we don't sell that much, or what if it's 2 years slower than we're thinking? What's the effect? So that's the kind of questions that I ask in product board and in these investment discussions. You know, otherwise you just fool yourself.
I'm just wondering, is that sensitivity analysis, is that more or less the same as scenario planning, or is the sensitivity analysis more mathematical? What if?
Well, sensitivity normally refers to one of the factors or one of the constraints. So you say, okay, how sensitive are we to metals price? How sensitive are we to the price of oil? You know, it's one or two things. You know, scenario would be more like, okay, demand evaporates by this amount, the currency depreciates by that amount, you know, more effects than just one. So sensitivity is more like, how sensitive is this project to one or two factors?
But then you can bring those together, that you at some point understand, hey, but these are the factors which are most critical for the success of this business model, business line, or innovation.
Right.
So let's develop some what-if scenarios which potentially will drive those 2-3 most critical parameters, and that you then have your early warning signal system to say, okay, now we are on top of it, and now we can see what's becoming emerging in time and respond in time, and therefore be on top of it, while your competitors may even still wonder what's going on.
Right.
Is that your?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's instead of putting up a list of risks and say, okay, these are the risks that we think about, then it's each risk. What is the sensitivity to the project of that risk?
Yeah.
Then you really understand, okay, we really have to guard against the competitor entering in this space in this time or whatever, you know.
The reason for zooming in a bit here is I think a lot of business leaders, service leaders, this is not what they do a lot or at all. And I think this is one of the capabilities which will open up your path to be able to still defend innovation in these times and actually also do it right.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to say, yeah, everybody says we have to innovate, so let's innovate and reserve some cash, but that's not going to be the way for success. You still have to make sure you do it right and you get your stakeholders on board. And then probably these kind of techniques are crucial to do it.
Well, I think it's important for service leaders to have some type of R&D function. You know, I think with these legacy businesses like ours and some other ones, it was always, okay, the capital guys keep all the R&D on their side. But we really learned a couple of years ago, when it comes to eliminating single source dependency on suppliers and designing out cost in the machine, it's important that the service group then have some R&D capabilities. And normally, let's say on capital equipment, you have R&D being driven by the marketing guys. On our side, on the service side, I really have R&D being driven by the sourcing team. So the sourcing team has, you know, problem suppliers or just structural issues where they can't get the cost any lower. So then they engage the R&D team and say, okay, hey, design in 2 solutions, 3 solutions that we can get more competition on our spend. So I think that's important. I don't know that every service group out there does that, but I think it's important to defend that to your board and to the group management that, hey, this is a necessary thing to have innovation in the service group and to be able to do that organically and not, you know, pay for resources at the CAP division or something else.
So it's interesting what you say now. So defend that to the board. One of the things I've learned is if you want to defend something or convince somebody or engage people for commitment, don't sell your solution first, but first sell the problem or what is at stake. So what is the bigger game?
Yeah.
What is a bigger game around getting service innovation on the agenda? What if you don't? Why should the CEO bother about that?
Right. So I try to paint them pictures. So I give them some real poignant examples of success and of failures. And then, you know, I tell that story, but then I tie it then to what does the landscape look like today? You know, where are the chances that we can either have a great strategic success or a great failure if we're not careful? So I painted them some pictures of some projects that are happening right now, and then kind of reinforce that why it's important to protect these investments in the innovations or the acquisition. That was the other point, having an overall approval on my growth strategy, both organically and inorganically. So if I can paint a poignant enough and vivid enough picture of what it looks like out there, then when I come with some acquisitions, I just point back to that story that I told them and say, hey, remember I showed you guys this. This is where that acquisition fits.
We talked about new solutions, new value propositions, new capabilities in mining companies and therefore also in your company. What you typically see is when a lot of things change in client organizations around how they run and manage their assets, but they're also the operations and the people, which all will become more data driven, which means they have to develop their digital and data capabilities as well. They will start using service providers for that, maybe some system integrator kind of companies or digital native companies. And potentially you run the risk that they actually really are the partner of your clients around your equipment.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine that the real disruptive market disruptive change here can be is that manufacturers of OEM manufacturers are being pushed down to in the food chain, and that these kind of system integrators, that they will help the clients to optimize and manage the whole operation, including the assets.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to deliver the spare parts and the equipment. Is that a fair picture? Is that?
Yeah, that's a completely fair picture. So, you know, we have a big focus or emphasis on making sure that that doesn't happen, of course. So we know who's innovating around our equipment. We go for partnerships, we go for acquisition, we go for organic solutions in that space. Now, we know that the longer term game now is around productivity and overall optimization of the equipment. There's all kinds of things that we're doing to make sure that we stay on top of that.
Yeah. This is also a matter of changing the attitude of your entire company of what is actually really our core business and value proposition.
Yeah.
Are we a manufacturer of good equipment, or? Yeah,
my VP of marketing is the head of the marketing council for the group. So, you know, that's been the discussion for 2 years now, really getting everybody to understand what is our value, what value, why do customers want to buy from us, and how do we want that going forward. So yeah, that's absolutely, those discussions are happening and it's important.
So what kind of, let's say, questions do you raise in those kind of conversations or discussions? Because this is, I think, opening eyes, providing new perspectives.
Yeah.
So you have to ask the right questions and get the right insight from the outside in to trigger those thoughts.
Yeah. No, so I think first off is around understanding, you know, what is winning us tenders today, you know, and what is going to win us tenders going forward. And it's a generational shift over the last, again, this 20-year horizon. And I only speak to 20 years because that's how long I've been in the industry. But yeah, over 20 years, it's been less about relationship sales and more about productivity sales and the counselor sales approach, the consultative sales approach. So that's a big change for all these marketing guys.
So those were the main points of my conversation with Jess. A few takeaways. Our customer needs were changing anyway and will continue to change, maybe at a faster pace. Ongoing innovation is crucial to remain valuable to your clients, and some of these innovations can be monetized on the very short term. Some of them will take a longer period of time, and we have to create a safe harbor for both, and particularly for the latter one, for where the monetization is more in the long term. That could be a bit more challenging. The future is uncertain. We do not have the crystal ball. We need to use adequate techniques to better manage this uncertainty, like sensitivity analysis and scenario planning. And be aware of new competition that is trying to serve your clients too. Now, my question would be, what will drive the success of your company as a whole as the industry evolves? I hope this was useful for you. Good luck, take care, and see you next time.